Hey guys, thanks for tuning in last week and hearing our story of how we conceived and our struggles to go through pregnancies and things like that. And now we're going to kind of pick up where we left off.
We had the
Fourth.
We're on the fourth miscarriage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fourth. Fifth. Fourth, everything went as they said. So,
and this is a gap because Corey is she's 8 and Naomi is almost 3. So these miscarriages are happening between that 5-year gap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So after the fourth one that hit hard, and at this point, here's the other thing where everyone's like, why do y'all keep trying? Or, what are you doing? Or whatever. Y'all have 2, because there are people that said that. I couldn't be on birth control after. So once I found out that I was had the blood clotting disorder, I can now no longer be on birth control. So the option is then you get a vasectomy. But I couldn't be on any birth control. So because of my risk for blood clotting and having a blood clot was much higher. Mm-hmm. So even now there's no birth control for me that I can be on. And
there's no birth control for me either. As well, people. I'm just saying.
Well, not then, but there is now. So I, and we weren't done. Like I still wanted to have potentially another one. I still was like, ooh, we could still have a boy, in the back of my mind. So the fifth one is where things get a little dicey. Fifth, same thing. Found out we were pregnant, excited, go through all the motions, immediately start my injections. I do everything we're supposed to do. I was working, and went to one of the doctor's appointments and found out once again, okay, there's no heartbeat. You're going to have a miscarriage. It's going to be the same thing. That's what the doctor told me. Same process. Mm-hmm. You're going to start bleeding one day and it is what it is. And so, that again, a gut punch and I was like, okay, been through this before. I know what to expect. I was at work and this is one where I literally had PTSD from it. But I was at work, started bleeding, but not a normal amount of blood. I went to the bathroom in between patients and I was hemorrhaging. I mean, I knew it. I knew what was happening. There was no way I could have that much blood coming out. Something was terribly wrong. This one's hard to talk about. So luckily I had the lady that I worked with. She came to the bathroom with me. I mean, it was bad. And so I got to the bathroom and she said, I looked at her, I said, you need to call 911. And she did. And the ambulance came, got me. Luckily, I worked almost directly across the street from the hospital. And so the ambulance got there and it was 2 guys. And I told them, I said, I'm miscarriaging. I think I'm hemorrhaging. And at that point, all they heard was, I think, miscarriage. And they were like, oh, she's just miscarriaging. So I was in the ambulance and they're like, we're not going to turn the lights on or anything. We're just going to get you there. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And here's like the I don't like telling the story. They couldn't get my vein and they're like, they'll just do it when you get in there. And I was like, okay. So, I think it's important to tell this story. That's why I'm doing it. It makes me super uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it so that in case this happens to anyone else, you're aware and get to the hospital. I'm sitting in the waiting room. And at this point, I know you have been called. My mom had been called. But again, my mom is in Abilene, so she's 3.5, 4 hours away. So you're not there yet. And I can feel my stomach. It is filling up with blood. Mm-hmm. I can feel it. And I was telling the doctor, and he would come and push on my stomach. And at this point, it was clotting. And so it was coming out. And then I was still waiting on the doctor.
But then I have to come in and say, hey, listen, something's going on with my wife. Didn't I have to get bucked?
So here's who saved me. And I went and found her after this, the ultrasound tech. She came in and she did an ultrasound on my stomach. And she didn't freak me out. She looked at me and she grabbed my hand. She goes, I'm going to go get the doctor for you. And I was like, okay. And she like pushed her stuff aside and then like quickly got out of the room. And I'm telling you, it felt like 10 seconds. I don't know. The doctor was in the doctor that I needed to see was in there. And she looked at me and she goes, how are you feeling? And I was like, not great. She goes, you're not always this color, are you? And I was my head, what was happening is my body was going into shock because I was losing too much blood. My heart rate was like 160 to 180. It was way high. And here's where the frustrating part comes in with the doctors. The doctor then that had been with me, that we were waiting on the OB doctor to come in. He was like, no, she just has white coat syndrome. She just is nervous because we're in here. And she looked at that doctor and she goes, that is not what's happening. And she immediately, like, that's when she just got everybody and it was like, and I'm assuming you were, my brain is, but I know you were there.
But, I was the one that told your color was off. I was like, my wife don't look like this. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So she immediately took me back, got me where I needed to go. And then I remember I had a necklace that had Blake and Corey's name on it. And I remember being rolled in. And I remember like holding it. Cause I was like, I have babies. Like, y'all have to save me. Cause I knew it was bad. I knew it was bad, but I knew, I was in good hands. And so she looked at me and she was like, you're going to be okay. And I was like, okay. This is not a fun story, but I think it's an important story. So then I woke up, right? So they put you out and then I woke up and I was in a
recovery room.
Right. Recovery room. And I just remember just being so thankful then that I was here and I was okay. And I'll never forget that point. But even at that time, I knew it was bad, but I don't think I realized like how bad. So then I when I got into the room, you were there at this point, my mom was there. I went to stand up and I remember, my head, I mean, it was like, it felt like it was moving. Like it was, I could feel my pulse in my head. Mm-hmm. And so I like sat back down and the doctor came in and I was like, is that normal? She goes, no, you've lost a lot of blood. That's when we had to do the blood transfusions. Yeah. So I had to get 2 blood transfusions, which that's kind of a funny story. Cause I remember, so when they hook you up, you hear all these like horror stories of blood transfusions, of wrong blood. I told y'all before, I'm a hypochondriac. So wrong blood or like
tainted blood or whatever.
Air going into the thing. And so do you remember this? The nurse was like setting it up and you see, why does the tube have to be that long? But the tube is like long. So you see the blood going up the tube and it's going to go and it's going to come into my arm. Right. Mm. And I remember going, stop. And she was like, what's wrong? And I was like, there's bubbles in it. And she was like, no, Jenni. She's like, those are okay. Those are like micro bubbles. It's okay. Mm. I was terrified that those bubbles were about to like explode. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew something bad was going to happen. So that was kind of funny. But anyways, got the 2 blood transfusions. Was still in the hospital. My blood pressure was still super low. It was like something over 40. It was like 80 or 85 over 40. So I knew that was, they had to get my blood pressure up before I could leave. So waited for that. It was a couple of days I was in the hospital. So we get home. They forgot to prescribe me iron. This was the coldest I had ever been. I don't remember if you know, but when you lose that amount of blood, my color did not return for months. And then when they didn't give me the iron, we go back to the doctor for a checkup and she was like, are you on iron? And I was like, no. she was like, they didn't give you any when you left the hospital? I was like, no. And so, once I started my iron, it kind of things got a little bit better. But I remember like laying in bed, I was just like freezing. I had never been so cold. But after that one, that is why I was nervous. So the next, we did have one more after that one. And then after that one, I was at that point terrified. I was terrified of pregnancy. I didn't want anything to do with them anymore, basically. And so there was a good break, but then we did get pregnant again, which ended
the last time.
So that was the 5th. No, I'm sorry. That was the 6th miscarriage. And I was done. I was like, this is enough. Like, this is a lot for anyone. And I have two that I'm so thankful for and so happy that we have. And so I wasn't thinking. And then at that point, I had thought, because we had gone a long time without me getting pregnant again. So I had thought with all the, we're wrong. I forgot. 2 of those, remember, I had to go and do DNCs.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. So I was wrong on telling this story. But that is why I thought maybe I couldn't get pregnant anymore, because I was like, between the 2 DNCs that I had, and then the one where I hemorrhaged, where they had to do that. I thought there's probably a lot of scar tissue. This is my own diagnosis. And so I was like, we hadn't gotten pregnant. So I was like, this isn't going to happen. So it's fine. And then COVID hit, and then Naomi hit.
Yeah. Well, did Naomi happen
during COVID?
Oh, okay, but I'm saying, was it like the earlier point time of COVID?
Well, she was born March of 21, so we were pregnant all of 2020, basically. I mean, not all of 2020, but 2020. Yeah, and everything worked with her. I mean, we did the same thing.
I mean, it was in the house anyway. Wasn't like we were doing much.
Yeah. And we so that gave us. That was a blessing during COVID, because there was so much going on, and that gave us kind of something to look forward to and to be excited about. And it was funny. I remember, like, then you go every day, you're like, oh, okay, we've made it another day. I've made it another day. And then I knew once I got past that, like,
first trimester.
Yeah. I was like, okay, because I had never miscarried after that point. And so I was like, I think this is going to be okay. So I started to calm down. But then what kept creeping back in was, what if I hemorrhage again? What if I hemorrhage again? And so that was my fear, which is when I found out about, like, the birthing affirmations. And I would listen to them. I put them in my ear at night. I would listen to them. And if anyone has never done those, like, those are amazing. And they're just so positive, and they prepare you
for sure
for giving birth, and giving birth naturally, and just understanding that, God created my body to do this, and this is what it's going to do. And then I didn't have that fear up until I remember. So now we're at the hospital. Naomi came at 37 weeks too. So Blake at 35. Corey and Naomi both 37. At 37. So we're at the hospital, and the doctor now is the same doctor that delivered Blake.
Dr.
Blake. Funny side story. She had a crazy last name, and I could not find her to deliver Corey. I couldn't find her. I didn't know where she was. I was taking Blake to her pediatric appointment, and on the side of the wall, it said Blake so-and-so, OBGYN. And I was like, and Blake goes, "Look, Mom, it's my name." And I was like, oh, that's the dog. I bet that's her. And so we go in, and sure enough, that's her. So we found her again because
she delivered Nana.
Blake read Blake, and we were on. Yeah. So she was actually in the same building as our PD, our pediatrician. And so that's how we found her. So at that point, I was like, I'll never get to use her again, because I never realized, I didn't think that, we were going to get pregnant again, but we did. And so I knew immediately who I was going to. I was going to her. So she was just the most fantastic doctor. But Dr. Wida is her name, Blake Wida. It's if y'all are in the Austin area, she's awesome. Shout out to her. But so went there. she knew my history, again, so you're filling out the paperwork and they're like, how many pregnancies have you had? And at this point I'm like, oh God, I don't know, 6. So Naomi was my 9th pregnancy. And so I hated writing. Having to write that was like, and then she would look, I remember her looking at it. She goes, you worry me. And I was like, don't do that. Like, we're going to be fine. And she was like, yeah, I know. So she was awesome. So we did, when we got to, she knew my fears all along because of the hemorrhage. She knew that was part of it. And so she would always just reassure me. She was like, there are so many. So when she told me, she was like, we have a cart that will be ready in case you hemorrhage. Like, we will be prepared for it. Like, the last time you hemorrhaged, you weren't even at a hospital and they still managed to get what you needed and save you. And I was like, okay. So that made me feel better. And I don't know if you realize, so, and having her natural. So when we got to the hospital with Naomi, this is when we knew there was a game on. Mm-hmm. This was my 3rd time. So I was like, I know what's going to happen. The first one was in 6 hours. The next one was in 3. She's coming in an hour and a half. She's going to be here. We're going to just keep cutting it down. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and she was like, it's not always how you plan. And I was like, yeah, I know. It's fine. It's going to be fine. She'll be here. She's like, you don't want Pitocin. I was like, I've never had Pitocin. I don't need Pitocin. Mm-hmm. Just break my water and it's going to work. Naturally. That's how it's worked. So of course she breaks my water that morning, and because my water didn't break with any of them. So they had to break the water with all of them. Mm-hmm. She breaks the water and we're just sitting there. And it's me, you, and Mom as usual. Mm-hmm. We're sitting there. And I'm like, what is happening? Nothing is happening. I mean, nothing is happening. And so then she comes in and she's like, are you sure you didn't have Pitocin? And I was like, I know I didn't have Pitocin. Yeah. No, I didn't have Pitocin. She's like, okay, I'm going to give you a little longer and then we're going to have to give you some Pitocin, which everyone tells the stories of Pitocin, how if you get Pitocin, oh, your contractions are so much stronger and faster and harder. And so if you're doing it naturally, it's like, oh, you don't want it. So I was scared of it too. So I was like, I don't want that. This is hard enough as it is. But nothing was happening. So with Naomi, she put the Pitocin drip in. Mm-hmm. And of course your contractions start immediately, which was fine. To me, the contractions, they all suck. I mean, there was no different. I mean, it sucked regardless. But I knew the game came on, so I felt pressure. I was like, this baby needs to get here.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel pressure because you wanted to watch the game too? I mean, you thought it was for me?
No, this one was for you in this moment, for sure. But but where I hadn't lost it with any of them. But when the nurse came in and they'll check you, and I know specifically when you get to 8, that pain is strong, mm-hmm. right? And so from 8 to 10 centimeters when you're dilating, that pain is a lot. Now, granted, it tends to go a little bit faster, but it's a lot. So she came in and I was like, ooh, like I knew, I was like, this is up there. And so I wanted her to check me. And I remember when she checked me, she said it was like a 5 or something.
Something that was not even close, yeah.
And I think my whole mental power at that point, because I was like, in my mind, I knew she was going to tell me I was at a 9. Yeah. Like that's what she was going to say.
Because your pain level was at
and so I was like, okay. And I sat there and I had a couple more contractions. And I don't know if you remember this, but my mom, she could see it. So Mom also had all of her babies naturally. Mm-hmm. So she looked at me at one point and she goes, Jenni, I know you're in pain and it's okay. Like she was like, you don't have to be tough all the time. Mm. And when she said that, I think like one tear came out. I was like, boop.
The one tear, like the movie Glory, whenever Denzel got hit with that whip and that one teardrop fell out. That's how she looked.
Because I was like, I was hurting. I remember I was hurting. And then it was so weird because then the doctor comes in almost like immediately after and she goes, are you ready? And I was like, what do you mean? She just told me I was at a 5. I knew I was upset. And she was like, you know when you're ready. She's like, you tell me when you're ready. And so I knew then, I was like, okay, no, she thinks I'm ready to go. I was just really confused. And then she was like, two more contractions. And then 2 more contractions, I was pushing and the baby was out. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, I got upset. I didn't even have to shed that tear because I thought I was shedding that tear because I thought it was going to be at least 3 more hours of this. Mm-hmm. So it popped out.
And
but
then
it was like,
boom,
2 more minutes. Yeah.
Naomi.
She was here.
And every time we have a baby or any of the babies, I always hold them up as if I'm the monkey off of Lion King. I hold the baby up.
And they all have bows.
And it's a beautiful situation.
It is. It was great. So
it was.
The struggles are there.
It is.
And it doesn't when you think back, there was times where I'm like, and this is what I meant by everybody deals with things differently. There was times where I looked back and I was like, am I, it was almost like mom guilt. It was weird. I felt guilty for not like, I don't even know how to like process this. Like, am I thinking of them enough? Does that make sense? Does it even make sense to you?
Yeah.
Or did I just move on and I don't acknowledge that I had 6 other babies or pregnancies that, I saw their heartbeat, some of them. And so that's when I got this tattoo. Mm-hmm. And so I have a tattoo on my arm that is all the birth flowers of the babies. Mm-hmm. And then I did one with the dandelion with the 6, the ones that you blow and the things go.
Yeah.
So we have 6 of those that kind of float off. So that way I know that they're there. It happened. I process it.
And then I bought you a ring.
I have a ring. So the ring has 6 little clusters of diamonds that I wear. So there's things that you can do that, you do want to remember, but I don't want to sit and dwell on it because we are so thankful and grateful for the 3 that we have.
Can't even have babies at all.
Exactly.
So we're definitely thankful for that.
Yeah. But it's not always going to be easy and it's not always going to be picture perfect. And,
it's not.
And there's routes that you can take and that you're going to have to take in order to get to where we are. And, we're thankful. I'm thankful I'm here. I'm thankful, that nothing crazier had happened. Mm-hmm. But it's a wild story. So with that, you were supportive. Let's talk about, maybe how you felt in that. But I remember you being supported, but I knew that you were being as supportive as you could because it was something I was going through.
For sure. And, I feel as a father or a husband to somebody that's having a miscarriage, like this is probably the only time that a father is at his most, he can't do anything at that moment. Like he is no providing or protecting at that moment. Like he can't do his natural alpha instincts because there's really nothing that he can, like he doesn't have that same feeling that she has. He's not going through that same emotional feeling that she's having when she's having a miscarriage. So I also feel like the only thing that a father can do is give some type of emotional support. I mean, you got to know your significant other, right? My wife is not the one where she wants me to sit and just talk to her and say, no. I'm here for you. I love you. Like she doesn't want all that mushy shit at the time. It's more of like, just be quiet and hold my hand or rub my hair or scratch my back. It's more of those type of things. So whatever your spouse requires at that time, because even when being an alpha male, and I always say provide and protect, when I'm saying provide or when I'm saying protect, it doesn't go off of just like, let me be physically strong and beat up the person that's trying to hurt my wife, or let me just pay all the bills. When I'm saying protect, you also got to protect her heart. You got to protect her emotions. You got to protect her feelings because she is a fragile human being. So that also goes into the alpha mode of when you got to be able to protect in different ways and provide in different ways. And when she's going through these miscarriages, you have to be able to give different parts of yourself. And I think being a father and when a woman is going through that, because, we don't have the same connection with the baby while it's in the belly. if a father tells you he does, he's lying. Like that connection is not the same when it's growing inside of her and she's going through those 9 months and, going through all those kicking, or you can rub it and feel the feet kick and all that. But the true connection with the father and the baby is when the baby is born. Like when that crown pops out, that head pops out, and I touch the baby head. Or when I hear that first scream and they're cleaning the baby off. Like that's my first introduction to the baby, So I think that as a father, it's hard to relate to the mother when she's going through all this because we really don't have that connection yet. It's not our bodies. Right. We don't really have that connection yet. So I think that fellas, if your woman is going through this, you have to be very mindful. You have to be very sensitive to her feelings, and you just got to be able to provide and protect in a different way that, what's come natural to you, whatever your spouse at that time needs you to do at that time.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's hard. I think that seeing my wife go through this was hard for me because, when she's laying in the bed and she's crying, I can't protect her at that time because it's what we're going through right there. There's nothing that I really can do. I'm at a helpless state. Yeah. And that's not a good feeling to be as a man, to be at a helpless state where you can't help your wife. And, I never like to see her cry. So anytime I know when it's in that time, if she's doing any crying, she's really hurting or she's in some pain or something like that because she typically doesn't cry a lot. So.
Yeah. It was.
It's tough.
You were there, though. You were there as much as you could be, and again, everybody deals with things differently, and I definitely wasn't wanting to openly cry about it or any of those things.
Yeah.
I just because it's a lot to process. It is. It's just a lot to process. But what I could sit back on is that I had children.
And you had 3 babies.
Yeah. And so that was great. But yeah, it was a ride. This has been a ride.
It has been
for us. But
and fellas, make sure if y'all decide not to have any more babies, and if your wife can get on birth control, control, whatever. But as a man, it is safer for you to get snipped than for her to get her tubes tied. So it's just a safer process for you to get yourself snipped.
So if anybody's wondering what we're doing now to prevent this, it's not that I'm on birth control. It's that
I got snipped.
We had the conversation of, for me, and the health risks I had, because I would have had to go. I couldn't have done it right then. Because
it's like a surgery.
Yeah, it was a surgery.
Yeah.
Well, we had to make sure I wasn't going to start bleeding again. And so we had to make sure my body was okay. And then several days later, go back in and have another procedure where I have to be put under and do the things.
For sure.
Where you can literally walk in and walk out 10, 15 minutes later.
Hour later.
Okay.
It's about an hour later. It's not that. Because you got to do the recovery. It's it
didn't seem that long.
Well, the prepping and all that type of stuff. But you get snipped. I got snipped, which is not alpha at all. Getting snipped is not even close to being alpha. But I got snipped only for the safety of my wife. Let that be known. It was only for the safety of my wife because I wouldn't have got snipped. But
that's a good
man, that when you get snipped, they tell you gotta. Funny story, quick before we get out of here. When you get snipped, right? They give you, you can either be put under, but not all the way under. You'll still be remembering everything. And then they can just numb it up.
It's like a Twilight. I think is what they call it.
No. You still remember. Oh. You're just a little bit more sedated than the normal.
Okay.
They're prepping me, right? Because you have to shave before you go. So they're prepping me. It's 3 women in there, mind you. It's fucking freezing in this damn place. So they lay you on a table and shit. You're laying on a table, and they got like a blue garnet thing that goes over your body, but your wee-wee is sticking out, and your balls and shit are sticking out and shit. That's sticking out. And it's freezing in this joint. And I'm sedated. But the thing that kept running through my mind was three girls are laughing at my dick, man. They gotta be saying some They joking on me right now because it's freezing in there, and I know I had the cold.
Shrinkage?
I know I had some shrinkage going on. Then the doc comes in, boom. He's right away talking about sports. I'm like, dude, like he's yanking on
typical.
Yeah, yanking on stuff like, yo, man, what do you think about, this, that, and the other? Like, who do you like in the playoffs? I'm like, bro, like he's doing this thing, boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, one likes tug, boom, then he's done.
But he tugged a little harder on one
tugged
area.
hard on the left-hand side and really hurt my joint over there. But nevertheless, I got it done. And then they tell you, hey, before you and your wife have sex, you need to knock out 20 of them. Meaning that you need to ejaculate 20 times, shoot 20 of them off before you're able to have sex, just to make sure. I mean, shoot off 20, bring a sample back.
Can you imagine if though getting pregnant after this procedure, I would not have been happy.
Yeah, so they said shoot 20 off, come back, bring a sample in after you shoot the 20 off, and we'll see if you're sterile.
I think you got to like 3.
I didn't shoot none off.
I don't believe.
I don't jack off. I didn't jack off. I didn't shoot none off. I shot him in her, not knowing. We had sex. I mean, I wasn't just shooting the club up, but I'm saying I shot. I wasn't doing any of that. I wasn't raping myself.
Well,
I wasn't doing any of that.
I don't know if you told me the truth on that then.
I wasn't. What I told you, I knocked out. I didn't tell you I jacked off.
I think,
Nah. Only time that I jacked off. What are we talking about right now? We got all lost. Only time that I did anything was when I had to go give him a sample because you have to. Like I couldn't. Like you can't have sex. Boom, boom, give him a sample.
Okay,
that's the only time that I did it. But yeah, I just wasn't. We got off track with this shit. But yeah, man, like I wasn't. I got
go
snipped.
Get snipped.
Go get snipped, man. And man, having babies is beautiful. We had 3 together. We have 3 together. Blake, Corey, and Naomi.
Yep.
And I mean, they run the house. Well, they run their mom. They don't run dad because I don't play that.
Oh,
but it's
Naomi.
It's a beautiful thing, man. And once again, we just wanted to share our journey, our story.
Absolutely.
Let my wife take the floor and give y'all some details about the struggles that she went through, because we know there's a lot of people out there that just go through these type of struggles and trying to have kids, and you're not alone. I mean, it's not always.
There's options.
There's options.
There's options.
It's not always the woman's fault. It's not always what she can't. It's sometimes men's swimmers goes backwards. So you got to always get. You got to everybody. Both of you have to get checked.
Y'all know who I'm talking about.
So
I got a good friend who's with circles, and now they have beautiful children.
Exactly.
So there's options.
There's options.
But let's end this on a story of the week. Do you have a story of the week?
Okay, so we have a segment. It's called the Story of the Week, and we want to end probably all of our episodes with the Story of the Week. My story of the week comes today. I'm going to give you mine first, and then I'm going to let my wife do hers. But today, I was getting ready to go to the gym and work out. I take the kids to school first. I take the big girls to school first, and then my wife takes the little one to school. And so I'm boiling me some eggs, right? Getting my stuff all together, boiling my eggs and doing that. Typically, 9 out of 10 times my wife makes my breakfast.
Yeah.
Coffee, everything. So I'm boiling eggs, right? Pull out some chicken to cut up to put in the eggs and do all that type of shit. She looks at me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Boiling some eggs." She gave me an attitude, didn't even tell me bye, and slams the door.
I was so offended.
I'm like, what the? She got mad.
I didn't know you were telling this story.
She got mad that I was making my own damn breakfast. Like,
because
this shit is crazy.
Because you only do that to annoy me, I swear.
I was doing it because I was hungry. I was about to go to the gym. I was hungry.
Yeah, but I was going to ask you if you wanted to go have breakfast first. And so I was like, what is he doing? You don't ever, anytime you do anything for yourself, it's because you're you're mad at me or something.
She thinks that anytime, if I do anything for myself, I ain't a grown ass man, she thinks that I'm mad or something.
Yeah.
I can't make myself breakfast, or I can't do this.
You don't.
So she leaves and slams the door. I'm like, what the fuck is? I swear the door slammed. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with her? Slam the door, boom, boom, boom. Come back with a little attitude. I'm like, what? Just because I made myself some damn eggs.
Yeah, because I make your breakfast.
But that's my story.
But not only do I make your breakfast, is I make your breakfast. I know what you eat for the last 14, 15, whatever, a lot of years. And then all of a sudden the other morning you were like, I don't want eggs. What do you mean you don't want eggs? I just want fruit and yogurt. What?
Why can't I not have that shit? Like, why don't
How are you just going to change up what you like on the day of, or I've already made you breakfast? You could have been like, you know what? This is cool. Tomorrow,
That's my story of the week, folks.
Fruit
We're
and
on
yogurt.
to Jenni Jones's story of the week.
We don't have to do 2 stories.
You just want to keep one story of the week?
Let's do one story of the week.
Okay, well, that's the story of the week.
Yeah.
And it was brought to you by the anger in my wife for me making my own damn breakfast. So
don't do that again.
Boil eggs. That's all. Just boiling some eggs.
Or don't.
I was just boiling some eggs. But like I said, this is episode 2. Tune in for episode 3 coming to you shortly after these. We just want to thank everybody, like we always do at the end of our pod, thanking everybody for allowing us to be us and to be vulnerable and just to be able to share this space with y'all. Maybe some of this stuff that we discussed today can help y'all out. We want to thank everybody that's behind the scenes around Rock Studio. We love that what they do here. Yeah. They do a great job for us. They produce it for us. My boy Charles Box, Mailbox Production, he does a lot of stuff for us as well. They just really have a great team over here, man. They do a great job, and we just want to thank them for that, man. Everybody that's on our YouTube channel, subscribe.
Go subscribe.
Hit that like button.
I never thought I would ever say that.
Go
click
subscribe. Click the button.
Below.
We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music. So Apple Pod. I'm sorry. So just go and listen, download, listen, and like. Leave some heart emojis. Go to our website, coffeewithjennianddre.com. We're gonna have merch on there real soon. We're gonna have coffee mugs. We're gonna have sweaters. We're gonna have crew necks. We're gonna have a couple of hats on there. Just a lot of stuff like that on there, man. So.
And we just appreciate all the kind words.
We appreciate y'all, man. We appreciate all the kind stuff that's been happening for us, all the kind words y'all been leaving messages and all that, man. We're also on TikTok. You know, we got the wine challenge coming soon, so y'all prepare for that wine challenge that me and her are gonna do with the ball. And
yeah.
Hello, you know. Here that we go. One, yeah. We'll get that.
We might not be as smooth as the other ones.
We're definitely not gonna be that smooth, but we're gonna have coffee and not wine.
Okay. Done.
So thank y'all for tuning in.
Thank you.
To Coffee with Jenni and Dre. My beautiful co-host Jenni, and I'm Dre.
And we'll see you next time.
Peace.